So thank you very much. Let's start on time. I will talk about AI, and I think everybody is talking about AI. So what are we talking about today? First, I want to present myself. I'm Bernard Montel. I'm the technical director for Tenable in EMEA, and I'm very pleased to be here. I was here last year. I'm also with my colleague Jerry, which is the head of pre-sales for the region. So if you have any questions, go to Jerry. Okay. So first of all, we will talk about AI, but I want to share with you first the agenda about that next 20 minutes. Everyone is talking about AI, and I think it's a surprise for no one that AI is the technology that has been adopted for the entire history, the fastest technology that has been adopted since the beginning of IT. If you look backwards for 50 years or even 60 years, internet has been adopted, but not as fast as AI has been adopted. So I will share with you the first part, the challenges that we see today with AI. On the second part of that presentation, Tenable has done a study for many organizations. We use 1,000 organizations where we are studying and asking questions about their way and the challenges we've seen on AI regarding vulnerabilities and exposures. And I will present to you part of the result of that report. The report is available, it's public for the past 3 weeks. I will share with you a couple of elements and findings that we have found on AI. And then obviously about the last part of the presentation will be around how do we answer about that question on AI, and specifically how Tenable today can help discover AI, what we call shadow AI, discover and AI which is running in a cloud. So first, let's talk about AI adoption and some numbers. I want to ask you one question. Who is using AI weekly today? Weekly, every week. Who is using AI daily? Almost everyone. Okay. So that is exactly what we see here. 55% of the organizations has already adopted AI. When I talk about organizations, it's obviously enterprise. But organizations are also 65% of them are using regularly AI. And I think it's even more than that today. But 47 of them have decided to run an AI project. And that's what we will focus on in this session. Organizations that decided to run their own LLM project and how they do it and what are the challenges around that. So if you look at the first results I want to share with you this morning from our study, all of them are using public cloud for running AI projects. Why? Because AI needs power, needs storage, and because all of the cloud providers today are providing out-of-the-box packages where the developer, they don't even have to think about it. They just use an existing package of AI provided by Microsoft Azure, Google Vertex, or AWS. Well, how they do it? They go there, they instance a package, and then they'll start to run some tools, and I will share with you the tools, and start to put some training data into it and run it. If you look at the stats, most of the organizations, by default, 60% of them are using Azure. But it also depends on the use case they want to cover in their own LLM project. Oh yeah, by the way, when we talk about AI, we talk about machine learning, we talk about Gen AI. Here in this case, it's really about Gen AI. Okay. I will also cover the machine learning use case, because machine learning is still important. But when we talk about those packages, it's mainly around Gen AI. So, two challenges that we see here today. On the left-hand side, in fact, I think you are using AI daily even more than what you think about, because the AI is now present everywhere. We have Microsoft with Companion, we have WhatsApp with Meta AI, we have Zoom with now having AI Companion as well. We have a lot of technologies within the organization that you don't even think about it, because we are using AI more than daily, it's about, many times per day. But sometimes, you need to understand what your employees are in fact using, okay? And that is the first use case, which is what we call shadow AI. You think, for example, I had an organization I met, they say, oh, we are using AWS. Okay, let's find out. We deployed our Tenable Cloud Security, and then suddenly they discovered that they're also using Oracle, but they didn't know about it. That is the first challenge and the first use case, which is shadow AI. The second part is the model security, the project I was just mentioning. Organizations are rushing to go deploy their own LLM projects. They are putting developers under pressure. They say, we need to have our own LLM, we need to have our own Gen AI. This is a use case, go and do it, okay? But what about data poisoning? What about data theft around those AI projects, which again, are all of them, there are some exceptions where we have seen some Gen AI projects on-prem for some specific organization, but 99% of them are running that in the cloud. So what do we share with you today regarding that AI cloud risk report? So it's all about cloud, it's all about AI. So number one, we talk about AI inventory. We need to know what you already have. You need to understand those projects. And sometimes those projects are coming from the business. They are pushing that to the cloud, and you don't even know, as security practitioners or security managers or CISO, that you have those technologies which have been already deployed. So what do we have in the cloud today? We have what we call AI workloads. Again, we need power, and we need to be able to run it. This is the first category of systems and technology. The second part is the data. Most of the time, we underestimate that if there is a weakness, a vulnerability attached to an AI project, that has even a bigger impact than a classical service even running in a cloud. Why? Because we are training the AI model with a huge amount of data. And if you don't do that, then you have false positive or false negative. We talk about accuracy, and the accuracy will be lower if you don't have enough data. At the end of the day, what it is, machine learning, deep learning, or Gen AI, it's about stats. So you need to have a lot of data. Then if you have a problem with those data, the impact is even bigger. Here I'm mentioning the training data, but we also have the test data. Those projects, how they are working, we put a lot of training data, and then we have to test if the model we have chosen and the development we've done around it is accurate, to have less false positive. And then the technology that are used by developers on top of those packages, like open source technology, I'm mentioning here some of them, which is PyTorch. PyTorch is a Python-based technology, widely deployed, and some of them have different kind of use cases. Some of them are more related to machine learning, or and some of them are more related to LLM model. Okay, so that is, the landscape of those technologies running in a cloud. So what have we found? You know that game, I guess? You have some children? You play with them? Okay. So, what are the capacity? Number one, critical vulnerabilities. Like any technology, because at the end of the day, this is just a set of software, they could have critical vulnerabilities. But they could also have sometimes what we call public access. Again, we push the data in the cloud to be trained. This is not even in production, but those developers need a lot of information to train their model. What about the public access? What about if they leave access publicly to those data? Number 3, overprivileges. What do you think they do when they need to have, developing those projects? They put the highest privileges as possible. Why? Because it's easy, okay? And again, sometimes you don't even know about the existence and the visibility of those projects in the cloud provider, because this is coming from the business. They have hired a third-party company, ask them to develop an AI project. You don't even know that that AI project exists. But they leave the door open because of privileges. And last but not least is misconfigurations. Most of the time, when we are using those tools, we deploy it and keep the configuration by default. So what if we start to have some misconfiguration and vulnerabilities and some, weaknesses? And what if some of them are combined? So we call that toxic combination, which is the case that you have at least 2 of them, sometimes 3 of them, which is a critical vulnerability on a software that has been downloaded by a developer in the GitHub, last version or not even last version. What if, again, the identity has been left open, and what if the configuration has been left by default? And that is a toxic combination. I'm guessing you will see what I'm doing here in that, okay, which is having a big impact to that data and the rest of the project from a Gen AI standpoint. So, that is Vertex AI, one of the examples from Google. We have nothing against Google. Again, we have nothing against Google. Sometimes a little bit, but this case not. Vertex AI. Guessing what? I've generated this image with Gen AI. Okay, so I asked Gen AI, I don't want to name anyone, hey, give me all the relationships between the services in Google Vertex. As you can imagine, the problem we are highlighting here is that Jenga concept, which is all of those services are nested together. It's a big package that the developer is using, but behind the scene, we have 10 or 20 or 30 services which are called each other's. And this is just an example of that. Okay, so those are the hidden, like the Russian's puppets. You don't know how long it is, or you don't know how deep it is. We call that nested services. If you have one of the vulnerabilities in one of those services or misconfiguration, everything can be compromised. And that's exactly what we found. 70% of the organization from that study have at least one AI Vertex workbench with over-privilege on the service account. If you don't know what a service account is those accounts we need to run those services. So meaning that 77% of the organization we used for that study, they can be compromised with only one account in an AI project. I said we'd have nothing against Google. This is AWS. This technology is called SageMaker. 90% of them have default root access with SageMaker. Again, we don't have to blame the developer. They are using a package. They think it's secure because it's provided by the cloud provider. But by default, they left the root access. 90% of the organization within this study. Now, talking about vulnerabilities, as you know, we do vulnerability management for many years. What we've observed here is a gap between classical services and AI services. So we were wondering why. The reason for that is because everyone is rushing to develop their AI project. They're putting a lot of pressures to the developers to make it working. We put the data in, we put the model in, and that is the main goal. Make it working. Nevertheless, they leave critical vulnerabilities. One of them is on those Python packages, PyTorch and all the tools I presented. This one can bypass the restrictions to get a full access to the API without any authentication. If you don't fix that, you have a beautiful LLM project working very well, but anyone can get access to the data. And then misconfiguration. 14%, you can say it's low compared to 90%, but 14% of organizations using Bedrock, and again another AWS function, where you can disable public access. It's easy. You have just to check it. But 14% of organizations, they don't do that. Meaning that 14% of organizations leave access publicly to their data, training data. Now, we talked about data theft, but keep in mind that imagine the data is not stolen, but modified. So the whole LLM project is then going down from a result perspective. And that's another risk. So what do we do at Tenable? We do today what we call exposure management, which is clearly an evolution what we've done for the past 20 years, which is vulnerability management. Trying to understand the exposure within the attack surface. We talked about it just before in the booth. We can find any kind of misconfiguration, identity or overprivilege, and obviously vulnerabilities in the network, but also in the cloud and in OT systems or identity systems. So let's find out how can we apply exposure management to that specific use case, which is AI. So at Tenable, we have a research team and we have data science. Again, AI is not new. Gen AI is new, but machine learning, we're doing that for many, many years. Okay, and machine learning is still very important as a use case. No, Gen AI didn't replace machine learning. They are working and living together. We have a very important team of data science that we are using for enhancing our capacity when we detect a vulnerability. We try to find and put a score, which is a Tenable score, combining hundreds of vectors to be able to find if that vulnerability, specific vulnerability, has a big impact or low impact. And we're not only relying on a classical CVSS score, we do much more, and we do that for many years. We have 40 plus patents around data science and AI. But obviously, we have a lot of experience on that domain. What we do with exposure management is changing the mindset. For the past 10 years, everyone, including us, we were focusing on detecting and response, detect and respond about the attacks. What if you are spending more time in prevention, preventing those attacks? The classical analogy that I'm doing all the time is you have a house or you have an apartment. I'm pretty sure you have an alarm system, but I'm pretty sure you don't leave the door open and put the alarm system. You close the door as well and the windows, okay? Both are very important. You need to have an alarm system, which is a detective capacity, detection capacity, no doubt about it. But we also need to be sure that the doors are closed and the windows are closed. And that's what we do. And that's what we call today exposure management, which is really thinking on the left, investing more in prevention rather than only detection. And that makes sense. When I'm leaving my apartment, I'm putting the alarm, but I don't say, oh, that's okay. If they go in, I will be aware about it. Okay? No, I need to close the door. I don't want that they go in. I just don't want to be detected as well. And for that, we have created a couple of years ago, now 2 years ago, a platform called Tenable One that can aggregate all of those weaknesses that we can see in the attack surface. We are covering vulnerability management, of course, we're covering identity, the cloud, and OT. But I want to go back to AI. So we have two use cases we can cover today. One is called AI aware, around shadow AI. And the other one is called AI SPM, AI Security Posture Management. The first one, I want to show you, is this one. If you're already using Tenable from a scanning perspective and from vulnerability management perspective, you are covered by that use case because it's just a set of plugins. Our technology are using plugins to detect and find vulnerabilities. You don't need any other license. This is part of our technology. This is called AI aware. If you were not aware, now you are aware. This is AI aware, using a set of plugins and AI technologies to detect existing AI software and vulnerabilities attached to it. And believe me, most of the organizations try to scan and use AI aware. They are discovering a lot of technology that they were not aware about it. Plugins in browsers, whatever companion in the systems in your organization. And this one, you know it, DeepSeek chat detection. If someone in your organization starts to send data into DeepSeek, we can detect it. That is just an example, and we give, obviously, like any kind of result of vulnerability detection, all of the recommendations to be able to, decrease that risk. As I said to you, AI SPM, that is part of a domain, a subdomain we are covering called cloud security. So we have a solution called Tenable Cloud Security, which is also part of our Tenable One exposure management platform, and that is AI SPM. If you've seen it in a booth, we all have done some demo. What we do here is exactly the use case I presented in the study. We are discovering the AI inventory. We are discovering if there is data attached to those packages, again, in AWS, Azure, GCP, and Oracle, and so on. So, for example, in this one, we have discovered that there is a Bedrock service running into AWS. And we can see as well that we have SageMaker, and we can check vulnerabilities, we can check the misconfiguration and overprivilege. And as an example, we can represent a graph that highlights you the fact that that specific group of people and project have left the door open from an identity standpoint or from a misconfiguration standpoint. That is what we do with cloud security, and the use case is AI SPM, which is a sub-use case of the Tenable Cloud Security solution. Now, as I said to you, we also are using AI. So we are using AI ourselves. So if you are using our technology, like any other technology today, we are also using AI. The first one is, I mentioned it, is machine learning around vulnerability. This is called VPR. And the second one is LLM engine that is now embedded into Tenable One platform to help our practitioners to get explanation if they have an attack path. So I'll show you exactly that example. So today, we are calculating a risk when there is a specific vulnerability, and that is done by our VPR engine, and VPR engine is using machine learning. We are combining a set of vectors, and we're making weight scoring. As soon as you see scoring, most of the time mean machine learning. And last but not least is what we do within the platform. With Tenable One platform, we can detect attack path from cloud to on-prem using identity. We combine everything, and we try to detect not only vulnerabilities one by one, siloed it, but we detect a full attack path. The same way an attacker wants to penetrate a system, they try to find a path. So we detect those paths, but sometimes we need to explain the path. So that's where, we are using LLM engine. We are using our own training data. We have 20 years of knowledge on the vulnerabilities. We have, terabytes of data, multi-trillions of entry points we can gather together. So that huge database that Tenable has done for many, many years is now trained with our own LLM data for our customers to have those explanations. I just wanted to finish with one element which is not related to AI. Last week, we have announced a brand new version of Tenable One exposure management platform after a very important acquisition we've done 3 months ago from a company called Vulcan. Since now, Tenable One was aggregating Tenable technology. Again, our vulnerability management solution, identity, cloud, and OT. With Vulcan, we now have opened the platform to third-party technology. If you already have part of your attack surface which is covered by another technology and you want to keep it, it's possible, but you can send that information into one platform. Yesterday, a customer came in our booth. They are using Tenable One for VM, identity, and cloud. But they have an EDR from another technology. They want to get access. They want to give that information back to the platform. Why? Because today they were managing vulnerability with us and vulnerability with an EDR, but they have two UI, and they have to consolidate that information manually. We will help doing that use case by sending the EDR data back to Tenable One platform. Okay. So that is what we have announced last week. So I just wanted to share one slide with that today because it was important. And that's what I wanted to share globally today with you. If you want to get access to the full report, and I only shared with you a couple of findings, there are many others, you can go there and download completely, the Tenable Cloud AI Risk Report. I want to thank you, and perhaps we can have some questions, so don't hesitate.